David held Lily like he was holding time itself, like all the years lost in between had suddenly collapsed into this one hug. I stood there filming quietly, my hands slightly shaking. This wasn't just a reunion. This was a rescue. That night, we didn't leave the center until midnight. Clint had stayed back too, quietly watching the two of them from a distance like a proud director, watching the climax of a story he never planned to tell. Over the next few weeks, Lily transformed. She smiled more, ate regularly, and began helping David teach other people. I noticed how she always reached out to the quietest ones, the ones who looked like they didn't believe in themselves. One day I asked her, "How do you know who needs help the most?" She looked at me and said, "Because I used to sit like that too, silent, invisible, and hoping someone would notice." Her words hit me hard. I kept filming everything. Clint visited often now, not as a celebrity, but as part of the family. He would bring books, notebooks, sometimes even old DVDs of his movies and laugh when someone recognized him. But behind that smile, he watched everyone closely, especially David and Lily. One evening, David sat me down and said, "You know, Clint's not just helping us with money. He's helping us with something more dangerous." I asked, "What's that?" David smiled softly. "Belief. That's the most powerful thing you can give someone who's lost everything." Around that time, something unexpected happened. A group of teenagers who used to hang around the corner started coming to the center, not for trouble, but to learn. One of them, a boy named Rico, told me, "I used to think this place was full of broken people. Now I think it's full of survivors." That one line stayed with me. I added it as the opening line in the new documentary we were building. Clint loved it. "It's raw, honest, use it." Months passed and the center began to change shape. New paint, new shelves, even a secondhand projector Clint donated so they could watch movies together every Friday night. The community around us began noticing. People who once ignored the homeless started bringing food, books, sometimes just their time. The ripple was growing, but I could feel something coming, something big. One day, Lily disappeared. She left a note on the desk. "Don't look for me. I'll come back stronger." David was crushed. He sat quietly for hours. Clint called me that evening and said, "Let her walk her path. Sometimes healing needs space." But it didn't sit right with me. I checked security cams, street corners, asked around. Nothing. Until one morning I saw a familiar figure handing out water bottles on Skid Row. It was Lily, but not broken, not scared, confident. She looked different. Her eyes had purpose. I walked up to her. She smiled. "I'm building something. I want to open a shelter for girls like me, but I had to feel the streets again first, to remember why." I couldn't speak. I just hugged her. We walked together in silence for a while, watching the city move around us. And for the first time, it didn't feel cruel. It felt full of chances. 3 months passed like a dream. The shelter, now named The Bridge, opened its doors to the city's forgotten daughters. The opening ceremony wasn't fancy. No red carpets, no news channels, just warmth. There were candles, handwritten signs, and people who knew what it meant to sleep on cold concrete and wake up with no name. Lily stood at the entrance, holding a pair of keys in one hand and her old torn scarf in the other. She wasn't the same girl who once vanished without a word. She was now a leader. She gave the first tour herself, room by room, wall by wall. Every corner had a purpose. One room was for sleep, one for learning, another for dreaming, covered in drawings made by girls who now believed in tomorrow. David walked behind her, his eyes full of pride. Clint and I stood quietly watching. At one point, Lily turned to me and said, "Film this part." I lifted my camera as she pointed to a tiny frame on the wall. It was a photo, the selfie we had taken. Underneath it, handwritten in chalk, were the words, "Where broken turns into brave." That line, it hit me like a punch to the chest. Later that evening, I found Clint sitting alone on the back steps of the building. "You okay?" I asked. He didn't answer immediately. Then he looked up, eyes a little red. "I've made a lot of films in my life. Some won awards, some made millions. But this," he pointed to the shelter, "this is the only story I want my grandkids to know." I sat beside him, silent. He handed me a worn-out notebook. "Your documentary," he said, "should end with this." Inside were his personal notes, thoughts scribbled over the months. Things like, "Don't forget the man with the guitar," and "Hope isn't loud, it whispers." I used every single note. Over the next few days, I stitched the final cut of the documentary. No voiceovers, just raw voices, real people, and a soundtrack. David had turned his life around too. He got his GED, started working at a local youth center, and began mentoring kids who reminded him of himself. He still played guitar sometimes, but now his music wasn't just a way to survive, it was a way to speak for those who hadn't found their voice yet. As for Lily, she became something more than we ever imagined. She was invited to speak at a human rights conference in Berlin. The girl who once slept under bridges now stood on stages with world leaders, talking about dignity, freedom, and what real rescue looks like. Not with money, but with presence. And Clint? He got better, not completely. His health still had limits, but his spirit, unbreakable. He moved quietly, always behind the scenes. Whenever a new shelter opened, he would send a handwritten letter. No spotlight, no signature. Just a message that said, "Keep building bridges." One night I found him sitting alone again, this time not on the shelter steps, but on a quiet bench outside the community garden. I joined him, like always. We didn't speak much. After a while, he looked up at the stars and said, "You know what I've learned? You can't save the world, but you can change it. One hand, one voice, one story at a time." That line stuck with me. It became the title of the third film, One Story at a Time. It wasn't a blockbuster. It didn't go viral overnight, but it reached people who needed it most. A prison warden wrote to us, said 10 inmates watched it and started a book club. A teacher in rural India emailed, told us her students painted a mural with the words, "Where broken turns into brave." Clint's words were traveling continents now, and all of it had started with a cold night and a man shivering on the sidewalk. But then, something happened, something no one saw coming, and that's when everything changed again. It was the middle of autumn when we got the letter. Not an email, not a message, a real letter. Creased, weathered, like it had traveled through time. It came addressed to The Bridge. No sender, no return address. Lily opened it in the kitchen while we were cleaning up after dinner. She read the first line out loud and froze. "I was the man on the sidewalk." Everyone stopped. The girls, the volunteers, me. Even the wind outside seemed to hush for a second. Lily kept reading. "I never said thank you. I didn't know how. That night when Clint gave me his coat, I had decided I wouldn't wake up again. I was done. No one saw me. No one cared. I had a daughter once. She died. A job once. Lost it. A name once. Forgot it. But that night, something shifted. Not just because of the coat, because someone stopped. Because someone looked me in the eyes and didn't flinch. That one moment held me long enough to try again." The letter went on to explain how he ended up in a rehab program 3 states away, how he started sweeping floors at a diner, then moved up to cooking, how he saved enough to get a small place, and how every night before bed, he would watch the video of Lily speaking at the shelter's opening. "You reminded me I was still alive," he wrote. "I never came back because I didn't think I deserved to. But now I want to help." At the bottom of the page was a single sentence. "Tell Clint I kept the coat." That night we cried. All of us. Not the kind of crying that breaks you. The kind that heals. Because that man, the one Clint had helped, was never supposed to be a chapter. He had become the full circle. Proof that even a single act of kindness can echo into forever. And Clint, he didn't say much when he read it. Just smiled, placed the letter gently on the table, and whispered, he was never homeless. He was just waiting to come home. A week later, we received a photo. It was him, the man from the sidewalk. He was standing outside a shelter in Michigan, smiling, holding a tray of food, with a volunteer badge on his chest. Behind him were people lined up, waiting for dinner. And there, draped over the back of his chair, was that same old coat. Torn, faded, but still there, still warm. That's when I knew we hadn't just built shelters. We had built something bigger, a movement stitched together by forgotten stories and remembered names. And just when I thought nothing could top this moment, Clint called us for one final meeting, and what he revealed next, it would shake us to the core. We all gathered at the original shelter that evening. Me, Lily, David, Maria, a few of the girls who now ran shelters of their own. Clint walked in slowly, leaning on his cane, but with that same quiet fire in his eyes. He didn't say much at first, just looked around the room, his gaze pausing on each face like he was memorizing us. Then he sat down, pulled out a small black leather folder, and placed it on the table. I didn't tell anyone about this, he said, because I needed to be sure it would live on its own, without my name carrying it. Inside the folder were documents, papers that transferred,